Day to day, my role here is Head of Legal and Business Affairs for all scripted content. So that includes comedy and drama and acquisitions, but Film4 really is the sort of the client that needs the most servicing. So it's really a case of supervising the teams who handle the negotiation and the drafting of all the contracts, all the deals for development and production. So that's, about 60, 70 development deals a year, that sort of thing, and on average about a dozen films in production a year, so the financing for those films. And then seeing films through their entire life cycle, so dealing with all the legal issues that arise during post, during sales, dealing with all the issues that arise on our library titles, remakes, that sort of thing. It's usually to do with underlying rights. It's about establishing a clear chain of title, because a lot of the work we do is based on source material, original novels or plays that are then adapted for screenplays, so making sure that the rights are clear to those works. On the production front, it's more to do with sorting the financial deal. It's establishing our position in terms of recoupment and working out what our potential return on investment is. So it's negotiating with the other financiers and establishing our respective positions. The norm is that producers bring projects to us for development. I mean, sometimes we develop stuff ourselves. We might find, we've got a great development team here who sometimes find material themselves, and then we'd appoint a producer to work on that project. But normally producers bring us projects looking for development finance, so we're involved at the earliest stage. So we'll work with them to secure options on material and commission writers, and then the development team will work very closely with them to sort of get that screenplay to a point where it's ready for shooting or to raise finance. Alternatively, we sometimes board projects at a later stage, but it's normally the exception to the rule. There'd have to be a compelling reason for us to board something when it's all ready for production, and return on investment would not be the only criterion. It would have to tick certain boxes. It would have to sort of satisfy our other criteria. We had an incredible Cannes this year. We had four films in competition, one out of competition. All of those films having a UK element. I think there was talk in the press about them not being British films, but all of them were developed here. They all had either a UK producer or director attached. And the importance of a festival cannot be overstated, really. It really serves as a launch pad. So for Carol, for example, which had its premiere in Cannes, from that point until its premiere here at the London Film Festival, until its commercial release, word of mouth will continue to build. So it really, especially for those films which have serious awards potential, it really is incredibly important getting them out there at festivals and getting them seen by people there. In previous festivals, for example, we've had filmmakers such as Andrea Arnold performing incredibly well, and the buzz surrounding the awards received at those festivals is incredibly important. It now means that we're shooting her third film in the States. It's actually in post in the moment, but with each successive film, the scale and ambition of the project has grown. So festivals do serve as a fantastic launch pad for talent who are trying to get themselves noticed. When we go to markets, it's mostly about meeting. It's about getting face time with those people we wouldn't ordinarily meet in the normal course of business here. It's about making an effort to meet the other financiers, the other sales agents, the producers working in other countries, which is why Cannes, for example, is hugely important to us, because it has such an international pull that everybody is there. So it's a great time to meet those other parties and to be able to pitch our projects to them. And then from a pure sales point of view, it's such an important market in terms of pre-sales for those projects we're looking to finance, and those pre-sales then are hugely important in terms of banking the financing for such a project. We have a small team, and we tend to take meetings with financiers or sales agents or distributors as a team. So quite often I'll sit in on those meetings, as will Sue Bruce Smith, who's our head of sales and distribution and marketing and branding, and Rose Garnett, who's our head of creative. There'll be a cross-section of us so that we're all sat there and able to pitch our respective positions to foreign counterparts. From a legal and business affairs point of view, what we want to make sure is that the money is real, that the finance plan is complete first and foremost, that the budget matches the finance plan, that the offers of finance are from sources who are reliable and we know will make good on their offer of finance. It's about making sure that our respective positions are compatible, that we can work alongside those financiers and recoup in positions that work for each of us. So that's essentially what the legal and business affairs team do. They'll negotiate the deal to make sure that Film4's position is protected and that we'll see the best possible return on our investment. It's a key part of our strategy really to sort of ensure career progression. So whether that's Andrea Arnold or Clio Barnard or Steve McQueen, for example, whose first film we did, and then his second and third. So it's all about sort of moving directors and writers and producers forward with their careers and getting them on to not everybody wants to move on to more commercially focused projects, but it's about helping them sort of grow in whichever direction they're looking to go. When selecting projects, we always look for a UK element. There has to be a UK element, and we're always looking for new and distinctive voices. It's about discovering and nurturing the new talent. It's probably important to stress that we have hundreds of submissions a year, over 100 each month. So we have an awful lot of submissions, and very few make it onto the slate. So we have to be rather choosy in what we do select. I think the best advice for producers seeking to pull together finance, possibly for the first time, is that you can't make a film for more than its market value. It just doesn't make sense. So trying to get a budget to match its market value. The other key thing to do really is to allow as much lead time as possible, because closing a deal financially always takes longer than anticipated. Awful lot of paperwork involved, an awful lot of lawyers involved, and the longer the lead time, the better. It's imperative that everybody's respective financial and recoupment positions are established at the earliest opportunity, because otherwise you tend to find that you're arguing about these points when you're well into pre-production and you're looking to organisations like Film4 to be cash flowing. So it's a much better idea to try and flush out any thorny issues at the earliest possible opportunity. We have various sort of hoops to jump through internally before we can greenlight a film. We need a finance plan that matches the budget. We need to understand our recoupment position. We need to be able to model our potential return on investments. We need sales estimates. There's an awful lot of data that we need to be able to get something signed off internally. And then the negotiations begin with the third parties. So invariably, films will not, the deal for the financing will close after films have begun pre-production, sometimes shooting, which is far from ideal. It's a white-knuckle ride at that point, so it makes much more sense to try and get things into place at the earliest possible opportunity. It's helpful if the producer can share as much information with us as possible, rather than drip feed information to various parties. It's much easier if the producer can share all details with all interested parties, so that any potential problems are flushed out sooner than later. I think traditionally people came to us for softer money. They assumed that we were a form of subsidy, which we are very definitely not. Channel 4 is a curious beast. It's a public service broadcaster, but it's entirely commercially funded. We earn all our own revenues through ad sales and other activities. So we earn all of our own money. We don't get licence fee money. We don't get lottery money. So we have to pay our own way, and at that rate it does mean operating a cross-subsidy model across the channel. It does mean that we have to earn some of our money back to subsidise the riskier, more artistic projects. So at that rate, we normally invest a mixture of licence fee and equity, but increasingly often now we invest a mix of licence fee, equity, sometimes mezzanine equity, sometimes gap. We have been known to invest sales advances against rights, but I think the key thing to stress really is that we do need to see a return on our investment. We're not soft money. At the point at which a film is ready for creative greenlight, when the creative team decide that something is ready and finance has been raised, whether by us or with the producer, We will then sit down, the Legal Business Affairs team will then sit down and review the budget with the production team. They'll go through the budget line by line. We'll assess the budget as against the finance plan. We'll look at all the proposals for financing from the various other financiers, and we assess whether all the offers for finance work and are compatible with the terms of our own investment.